So we have this tradition in Israel. Right after we're finishing the military service, we're going off for this, like, it's called the Tiura Gadol, the big trip. So you're traveling around, you're exploring. Most of us, like most of Israelis, just go to South America, or like sometimes Asia. And I have this beautiful family member over here, and we talked and
AKA my
talked.
sister.
And it happened in a time where I feel like my soul, as a lot of Israelis' souls, needed a break and a relief for a moment. I just feel like, as an Israeli and as a Jewish, I feel like I live this current times, and there's like this duality to our lives. We live in two different dimensions. One dimension will be at the personal level. Like, I have my own stuff that I'm worrying about at work, at family, at love, and like lots of different topics that are on my personal level. And there's this, I guess you would call it, in a collective level. I feel like we as Israelis like went through so much in the past year, and
Yeah.
so we need this relief every time, just to remind ourselves that we're humans and we're going through so much. And this has been a very eye-opening experience for me coming here. And the relief I got from it, it made me more resilient, I think. Just looking at things from a different perspective a little bit, just going out of
Different
the
set
country.
of eyes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the reason. And here we are.
So how do you feel you're seeing things differently from how you did when you were home?
Yeah, so when I was at home, I had in Israel, we call it miluim, which means you do the extra time in military when they need you, with the reserve, when they need you. Thank you. And I had that going on for like 2 months or so. It's very overwhelming what happens now in Israel. So I feel like me coming here just reminded me how much I need to be very proactive in terms of like advocacy for Israel and for Israelis in general, and explain our situation way better to the people here in the US. I went on a hike like 2 days ago, and I met this dude, and we were just hiking together all of a sudden, and we started talking, obviously, and he knew nothing about what happened, and he just knew there's like a situation between Gaza and Israel, and like he didn't really know the specifics. And the specifics and the details are very important.
Why are they so important?
Yeah, because it's all about humans, eventually, about human beings. And I feel like when we don't know other human beings' situations, and we don't know the hardships that they're going through, what are we even as human beings?
That's right. That's right.
We should see each other and know each other's pains. And we don't, we just sit on the fence and do nothing about it, and not even troubling to hear other people's opinions and what they're going through. Why are we here even as human beings, with a heart, with a conscience, with eyes?
I couldn't agree with you more, but I also, from my perspective, being someone who is not from your country or in your country, Maury knows that she has been sharing a lot of what's going on, and we have cried together because of the pain of humanity and what human beings are going through. At the end of the day, we're all the same. But I think some of us feel like, what can we do? I think really that's what the question is. Why worry? Why bring on all of this worry? Because at the end of the day, it consumes you with all of this grief that you're dealing with, and yet you feel so helpless. There's nothing that can be done to help those who are suffering. So what's your answer to that?
Yeah, I feel like when we stay silent about things that are not supposed to happen, the bad things just will continue to happen. And I don't feel comfortable, me personally, I don't feel comfortable sitting on the fence doing nothing about something that is wrong in this world.
Stand up.
Stand up against it.
Be on the right or be on the left. At least stand up for something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
And not
happens through history.
normalizing.
Yeah.
Normalizing things that shouldn't be normalized.
Such as?
Such as human suffering, suggest innocent people suffering. Just the topic that we're talking about mainly is touching on October 7th and what happened in Israel, and specifically about the hostages, the innocent people that got taken from their homes, from a dance party. Those are people that are just like you and me. That are just, some of them are children and babies that are still in captivity 15 months later. And those are the things that it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on. We're talking about human lives.
Right.
It's not aboutism about anything.
Sure
it's
thing.
about the fact that our innocent people that are being, the reality is they are being kept in tunnels, they are being tortured, they are being raped. There are women there that have been suffering unimaginable things that we don't want to think about, that we
Right.
don't want to talk about because it's uncomfortable to face the reality. But if there won't be people like us and like people that care about other humans speaking up and bringing that topic to awareness, then what are we doing? Yes, we're living lives and we're getting up, we're doing our thing, we're going to work, we're doing everything as we should, because we should live life. Life is about living. And
Yeah.
we cannot forget that there are other people out there that we are their only voice. So if we're not going to speak up, if we can, then we're not doing our job as humans.
So then again, which it brings me back to this question of what can we do? Voicing our opinions on social media, that's one thing,
Correct.
but we're raising awareness. Is there something that we should be doing in order to bring awareness in such a way that it's making an impact?
Everyone, in whatever capacity that they can, some people is praying more, some people is connecting to other people and other organizations. If you have the means and you can donate to those organizations, awesome. If you can go to a protest to bring them home, then do that. If you want to send emails to your representatives or call them, you do that. If you want to wear the dog tag on a daily basis so you keep them on your mind, so at least on an energetic field,
Yeah.
they're not forgotten. If you can wear the yellow pin, so maybe someone would ask you, what is this about? And you can say, like, there are hostages, innocent people, hostages. There are some American people that are still being held captive. And most of the American people, at least the one that I've spoken to and came across, don't even know that there are Americans that are being kept,
So what you're saying is basically that we as a human society, I guess as I hear it, is that we're in the dark. Like we're just oblivious.
Yeah.
We just either have no idea what's going on or we're choosing to ignore the facts and not participate in anything so we don't ruffle any feathers.
Yeah, it is. It's exactly it. And I think it's hard to face that reality because nobody wants to be that person that maybe...
It takes courage to stand up for what
Yeah,
you believe in.
Yeah. And I think that you don't need to have courage to do the right thing. I think just tapping into your own kindness, and if something happened to me or to someone I love, what would I want someone else to do for me if they didn't know me?
Sure.
I think just raising our voices and say,
I know that
enough.
this is a human,
Yeah,
and
I
they
know.
don't deserve
Mhm.
whatever's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Any human on any level,
Right.
no matter who they are, where they're from. So therefore, because I feel this way, let me do my part, even if it's at a small level, as just me wearing that necklace because I feel stuck and I can't do anything else about it. This is my way of supporting. So in other words, stand up for something.
Yeah.
Is what you're getting at. Just
Correct.
do something. Just don't stand idly, idle in the background. Do something is what you're trying to get everyone to understand.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, justice, like injustice somewhere is injustice everywhere.
That's
so
right.
I don't view us as human beings that have values and have like principles, I guess, to just stay silent about things that matters. Humans matters. And currently there's 98 hostages that are being held and they're being tortured and they're being raped and they're being sexually assaulted, and they'll be traumatized for their whole lives. And we as a society, I'm talking only about the Israeli level, we are deeply traumatized by it, and I feel like we won't heal, we won't recover till they're all back home.
Set free. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I feel like people need to know that these people are our people, and they're people of all by all humankind. They're people in all
From
stages
all
of
walks of
life,
life,
from all
yeah.
over the world. And there's, as Maury said, there is Americans over there, and there is two babies, one of them called Ariel and one of them called Kfir Bibas, and Bibas family. And they were just ripped away apart from their moms' arms, and they're babies. They shouldn't be in captivity. No one should be in captivity. And I feel like what I'm trying to emphasize here and articulate is the fact that there are human beings in a place human beings shouldn't be. No one should be there.
Right.
And bringing awareness to that subject is highly important. As I mentioned earlier, we just need to do our jobs and as human beings and pull up to whatever other human beings is suffering. We should be there and speak.
Speak up.
And I think, again, going back to just knowing what to exactly to do. I think what we as the human race from all areas of life,
Right.
what we need is to understand what are the things that we can do to help. Because I think talking about it is great to bring awareness, but also those of us who want to do, we feel helpless and we want to contribute and feel like we're playing our role and playing our part in the situation, we need a solution. We need something to back up and get on board with.
Right.
So with that, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. You're talking about us humans being in a situation where no human should ever be.
Right.
I just really, for the longest time, have felt like there's good and evil, and I think most of us know that, right? But to what extent? There's a tug of war between the dark side and the light.
Right.
So I think what's happening is there is darkness taking over. There's a disbalance or imbalance.
In terms of
There's a tug of war that is very apparent, and it's been ongoing, but I feel like right now there's a true tug, and it's you can see it, you can feel it, it's
Right.
everywhere.
right.
Would you agree?
Totally. And I would like to get practical with it. So I don't think in the war of bad and versus evil, I don't think we can. And I want to talk for a second on how that evil comes to life and in what like face, I guess, what it wears. And currently it wears a religious, like there is some kind of fundamental religious
Propaganda of sorts?
propaganda, yeah, and like as a jihadi disguise to it, and it's, I don't think you can like have any impact on that without speaking on behalf of religion. I don't think you can like,
Right.
let's say, like to beat them without any
Involvement
substantial, of
in that,
involvement
in your own religion.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that when they are trying to implement darkness and evil into this world, we should spread more kindness and more just human, just be a good human being and care for one another. And think
Right.
it goes back to the previous point of what we can do. We can be better human beings, put more kindness into our lives and care to our lives and visibility and see the other person's struggles. And that's right there, the whole thing about us being in this terrible war in good versus evil.
And I agree. I think
Yeah.
we definitely need to open up more. I think a lot of us, especially, I'm not sure what the situation is where you guys are, but I know that our society in America, for the most part, we're closed off, with so much going on in the world. People, I think, but I've become closed off because of what's gone out in the world and what I see. So in order to protect myself and protect my family, I have become closed off. So I think exactly what you just said. Open up a little bit more. Be a little bit more willing to see other people for who they are and their struggles, what they're going through. Give people a chance I think also God is a huge piece of the puzzle. When we detach ourselves from God, that's when all hell breaks loose.
Right.
And I think to acknowledge who God is and the role and involvement that God has in our lives, I think that's huge. I think aside from speaking on the topics that matter, we also need to speak on who matters and bring God back into the equation.
Totally.
We are, to touch on that, is the two things that we just mentioned is, one, when we don't know what to do and we feel lost, we need to look within, because God is between, it's between
You
all
said
of
it.
us, but it's inside of us. So tap into that and be the light that you want to see in the world. Be that solution that you expect the outside world to be, to bring to you and to save you and to have all the answers. You be the answer. I am a whole, and in my own little small world, I can be a light for someone. And
Right.
you don't know. Sometimes you don't even know that that's what you are to someone. Just the fact that we exist, that means that God has put us here with a purpose.
That's right.
To do something. And we can use that something for good.
That's
And
right.
it could be in the smallest thing with just a thought, and just put the intention out there. And then everything will start flowing.
That we are the solution
We are
often.
the solution. Yeah.
And I think you literally, you touched on it, that it starts with us. Literally, it starts with us. And the moment we start to do, there's a ripple effect that happens, that when you touch other people by what you're doing, that continues to be passed on. Sometimes we do look a little too far when it does start with us. So healing ourselves, checking in with ourselves, spending time with God, making sure we are right where we need to be, and then remember to pass that, once we have found that, pass that outwardly.
Yeah. So the year before October 7th happened, we had this mass protest about something about our justice system in
reform.
Israel, and the whole reform was this huge mass protest, and it was a very, very dark times in Israel and the Jewish history, I think, in general, because once we let division win and take over, we kind of forget why we're here for, as a society, as individuals, as a collective. And I think that led, and I'm like full mouth, I'm going to say it, that led to October 7th, because we let our division be our main focus. People got up in the morning and said, how can we beat the other sector in this country? How can we beat, they just wanted to diminish them, and the division created this atmosphere and this ground for the October 7th to happen. And that's right there, the thing, when we're forgetting who we are and what's God placed in our lives, the darkness gonna come and conquer eventually.
Huge.
Right?
Huge. I think you see that there are little signs of that in movies, but we often take movies for granted and the messages behind it. You know, whenever there's a divide between two people, it leaves room for something else to come in between them.
Right.
And as a human society, when we're unable to come together as a whole and unite to confront whatever's coming our way, we're opening the door for something else to come in between. And not only separate and divide, but also to do obviously worse things. So I think that's a huge lesson in anything. That can come with
Anything.
relationships, you and one-on-one.
Right.
It can come in communities, and it can come as a human race as well. It can come in all forms. So just to know that as long as we're together and not isolated and not dividing for whatever reason, we're not allowing anything on the outside to come and take over.
So the whole thing, I'm 24, and
You would never know, by the way.
thank you.
Handsome. How do you say handsome in mem?
That's right.
Mem.
That's so good.
Neri.
I thought I'm gonna learn neuroscience in October, and I had everything organized and everything well planned and thought through before October 7th happened.
You were going to learn what now?
Neuroscience.
Neuroscience.
That's it.
It's a language barrier. We all have a little bit of
The
it.
accent taking over. After October 7th happened, everything kind of changed. as well as everything changed. And on the last days, I just talked to Mari today, this morning, I told her that I feel like maybe I will ditch this topic and what interests me so deeply. And it's so mesmerizing, and I really want to do that someday. But I'm seeing so many darkness out there that I just can't. Yeah,
The call of the hour.
it's
Call of the hour.
Yeah.
It is, and you know, sometimes I have these thoughts. Like sometimes I wanna let the personal level to my life like take over to the front seat. You wanna learn neuroscience, like go do that. You wanna do this or that, and you wanna travel the world, do that. You're on your own. You're individual, right? But I have so many responsibility, not just to my like as a collective, to my collective and to my country, to my people. I have a responsibility as a human being to act and do something when something is off in the world, and no matter where. But when it meets me in such a direct and impactful way, I can't just sit by and not and like do nothing about it.
Change of course.
Yeah, in a very, very dramatic and sad way. But I feel like sometimes like life just taking over, like the reality really takes over, and like,
A little detour. This is your calling right now. For it to impact you in such a way that you feel this sense of conviction that you cannot live life as you know it because it's hitting you in such a way, then clearly it's a calling
it is.
in the direction that you should be headed.
Yeah.
That makes me proud to know you. And it inspires me to also step up my game.
Thank you. I feel like I don't think that this message is clear to people these days because we're so stuck in our own individualism, and we
Yes.
can't really see each other. You know, when was the last time you saw your neighbor from across the street? And when was you talked to him?
Other than you. Other than Maury.
But I feel like it's scary how much society becomes
Secluded.
and isolated, and it's very scary because once there's a trouble and there's things that are happening, who's going to be there for you?
There you go. And that's one of the topics that I talk on, every once in a while, because I came from a community where small village, very community oriented by default. We all had each other and we all came to one another for the smallest of things. Coming here to the US, even years ago, I was 8 years old when I came, 1992-3. I have not had that since then. And I feel like it's gotten worse. And now that I'm an adult with children, I feel like even though I stand for community, I have isolated myself as well. And we talk about this also all the time. But I'm guilty of it myself because of what's going on in the world. So I'm living exactly this in this scenario. Most of us are talking on it, and thank God for the podcast and thank God for the YouTube and the social media. Talking on it, just like you said, now as I'm speaking, I'm realizing more and more the impact that just talking about it has, because it opens people's eyes and hearts to know and understand, like, yeah, this is not okay.
No, it's not.
We need to come back to community. And I think that we as human beings, we need connection.
That's right. It's in our nature to
Yeah.
thrive.
About neuroscience, like we're mirroring one another. We learn from one another. We expand, we develop with all of it since came into this world, came to be. So when we start detaching ourselves from community and isolate ourselves, we're disconnecting from ourselves because we don't
Literally.
have that reflection. We don't have that place where we feel belong, and we start feeling like we're nobody.
That's right. Because you
It's-
feel like you're doing life on your, and that's really what it feels like. You're doing life on your own.
And that's why we need each other. We need to connect more. Once we have it, it's healing. Once we have it, we understand why we need it.
Yeah.
So we just need to come back into connection.
And I think what's happening right now in the world, honestly, as I'm noticing that there's a huge shift that's happening in the world that's calling for that. I
Absolutely.
think people are seeing that, okay, we've forgotten about God. First and foremost, they're calling on God. We're calling on God, and we're seeing people unite from all areas of the world. right? That's one. And then the unity of people coming together as a whole to help each other. There's no greater feeling.
No
So there's
greater
definitely
feeling,
a
yeah.
shift happening that I'm grateful for, but it's been a long time coming.
Yeah,
It's about
sadly,
damn time.
it is. Yeah. So yeah, back to the starting questions. I came here to basically just live my life as any other 24 years old out there. And we went to parties. We went to Puerto Rico, which like blessed. It was so much fun
When you first got here, you're saying?
when I first got here, and we just went out. And I've traveled to New York and had the best time. I met you over there, and we had the best time. And I feel there is this. So for the longest time in Israel in the past year, I've felt not robotic, but when I was in the military service, I had soldiers. I was a commander at my service, so I felt like I'm kind of losing the joy of life. I used to have like this joyous face, like smile all the time, and once everything kind of shifted, I felt like I'm losing it. And what gave me the reason and the legitimacy even to have a laugh here and there and smile and be, joyous. And I felt like I need to do whatever I need to do and whatever it takes just to get through the day. And every day was like blood, sweat, and tears. And just to get to that point to be here and experience life from a different angle a little bit, and I was like a little bit away from all the
Noise.
chaos. At first, I felt really bad me being here, and I have brothers and sisters who are being now held captive, and I lost 7 friends unfortunately in this war. They were combat soldiers, and they fought, and they eventually lost their lives unfortunately. So I was, and I'm still am traumatized by it. And it raises a question: why would you live your life? Why would you go there? Why would you travel over there? Why would you drink that? What gives you the reason to? And I don't want to be in a place where the trauma and the darkness taking over the joy in life and the beautiful things in life. I think like us giving that darkness this spot to take over
The power.
the power. Yeah. It's us losing our purpose in life, and there's no greater feeling for me at least to have a purpose, to do something for one another. And I don't want to give that darkness the power, so I'm taking the power back.
It's almost like in order for us to thrive, shining our light brighter,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And
Max
remembering the
brighter.
other people, your friends, family, that died, especially now we're talking about since October 7th, 2023, because people died for us to live.
Right.
So we cannot afford not to live our lives and not to celebrate the fact that we're breathing, because there are other forces of evil that actually want us dead. So by us giving in to that and letting that win
It's losing.
It's losing.
It's losing. Yeah.
We can't do that. We can't afford to forget that we meant to live life to the fullest.
Right.
Doesn't mean that we're not going to remember. Doesn't mean that we're not going to take a little detour so we can serve a greater purpose. But we have to live our lives.
Right.
It's
Unfortunately.
throughout history that we've been, as Jewish people, we've been prosecuted, look 3,000 years back.
80 years back to the
and I'm going. Yeah.
And we're still here,
we're still here.
It's funny because
Keep fighting the good fight.
he turned 24 when he got here. I turned 24 when I got here. But different reasons, because he came after a war. I came after a war. We both came here almost because of the same reason in 2 different timelines. And I could relate to everything you're saying because I felt the same. I'm like, how can I? At the time, we didn't had hostages, but I still felt this immense guilt. I'm like, I'm leaving my
For
country
being here when everyone else is suffering.
And because I was so traumatized from everything, that happened back in 2006. So, seeing you reliving kind of what I was living at the time, it just reminded me of myself. But then I'm looking at you and I'm like, you're going to be just fine. You're already doing so much more than I did. I was just trying to survive. You came here, you survived, first of all, and you did so much already just in your service alone. But then you come here with such conviction, and you go to New York, never been there before, first time
On
in the
his own,
United
just out and
States.
about,
Yeah.
teaching me things.
And then making connections, making friends, going to speak in the UN.
I came here and I was like, I don't want to live with the trauma for the rest of my life. So I want to practice more like gratitude, and I want to practice more compassion to myself, compassion to other people. I got to spend like the most amazing time at Maury's place, and the fact
That's
that
my cousin, people.
yo,
Okay.
yeah,
Doesn't fall far.
the fact that I took the time for myself to be here and process day by day, trying to process everything and to live life in a higher level, in a higher frequency than the darkness that have been taking over for the last year. I don't want to be cornered. I don't want to be silenced. I don't want to be in any other frequency than higher frequency. And that's connecting like to your point. Like, we can't let it take over. We can't surrender to it. We just have to keep living our best lives and practice this gratitude. And we lost so many beautiful friends and family members. These are my brothers and sisters, and I don't want to put any labels on. They are heroes and they are a true fighters, but first and foremost, they're human beings, and they're fathers and they're mothers and they're sisters and they're siblings and they're wives and husbands, and they're human beings showing up in support for their country and to protect their country.
A note on that I don't know if people know, in Israel, the service is not voluntary.
Yeah, it's mandatory.
It's mandatory. So men and women, when you turn 18, have to go serve in the military, especially if you're Jewish. If you're not Jewish, then you have the choice to volunteer or not. But if you're Jewish, you go to the military. And you serve your country if you want it or not. Sometimes if you've been put in a combat unit, it's not your choice. But it's still something that we have to do, and I don't think people understand. That's why I think you were saying that we're not going to just call them soldiers. They're not just this person that choose to do this.
It's mandatory.
It's
by
mandatory,
your
and
country.
also,
Excuse me, I have to turn this off. I'm gonna die. I didn't realize. I'm always cold. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, go ahead.
we have to remember that we are, this is us. Like, we are, he is the soldier. I was the soldier. Our uncles and aunts and cousins and their wives or their husbands, like, it's all intertwined. This
Right.
is no like, oh, this is like, some people are, yeah, it's their profession and they stay in the military and make a career out of it for 20, 30, 40 years. But we're talking about the day-to-day. When you turn 18, you go in the military. Like, that's what you do
And how privileged we are.
here in America.
Just be picked on, and you have to decide, God forbid, between leaving your family, because not only do you have to decide, but you have no choice, I guess, in your country, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is. You're
Yeah,
picked,
we're
you reach the
surrounded by
stage, and that's
enemy.
it.
Exactly. You're surrounded by enemy. And this is self-preservation, that we have to go. Otherwise, who else is going to protect us? So I think it's a point to make that, sometimes people see military as like, oh, these bad people with guns. But we're talking about people that are saving lives.
Said.
Yeah.
They
There's
have to fight back. There's
nothing-
no choice but to be there and
there-
react, because otherwise
Yeah,
you
it's an
lose your family.
It's an existential war right now. Like, this is what's happening. Like, we were fighting for our lives, and we sending generations of people to battle, and a mother sending her son to the front lines, and or a daughter to the front lines. They don't know if they're going to come back. You know, they're 18, 19, 20. There are some soldiers, 5 women soldiers that got taken captive from their base, 19-year-olds
In their pajamas.
in their pajamas, right
Yeah.
from their beds. So it's important to remember those are, like you said, brothers, sisters, mothers.
And I intentionally
grandkids.
emphasized the fact that they were kidnapped in their pajamas because it's, I
They
think,
weren't with guns.
and
They couldn't
also-
defend themselves. Yeah.
Thank you, both of you, for sharing and to want to step out and talk about things that matter so much that we as a human race should care really, frankly, more about. But you have the heart and the conviction to want to step out with everything else going around you and even against you.
Right.
That you have that much courage to, at your age, drop everything else and just say, this is what I feel strongly about. I really commend you, and I love you for that, and I'm so glad to know you.
Yeah.
And you too.
I try to emphasize the fact that we're all human beings, and as I said, they were kidnapped from their pajamas because we all are in this human experience together, and we're not showing up, and we're not speaking up, and we're not standing on things that are matter. We're losing our humanity.
We are.
We're letting ignorance come into the room, and it's taking over, and the division takes taking over, and the way to hell, I guess, is paved by that. And I really want to emphasize that we're all human beings going through this very short term here, this very short lifespan here, and we only have each other to lean on and to speak to and to show kindness to and to care about. And I feel like that's the most simple, like the fact that we have eyes and we have emotions and neurons and we have the capacity to love another human being and to care about them. I think that speaks louder.
I agree. And I think us being so alone and a lot of these things that we're suffering with by ourselves, a lot of it can just be eliminated just by the simple fact that we are proactive and serving a greater purpose and looking out for each other. You know, a lot of the things that we're suffering through that I see so much of here, they were too preoccupied with helping the next person and doing for the other person, you know, and right now we're so preoccupied with ourselves. We're just, it's almost like, you know, we're consuming ourselves with just, what can I do for myself? Really.
Yeah.
And then it's detrimental. So thank you both
Thank you.
for being on the first podcast ever.
Yes, thank you.
And how meaningful to have this. I mean, we all run deep. So to share this with you guys, I feel like it's super ultra special. So thank you both so much.
Thank you for
this
having
platform.
me.
Me.
Yeah.
All right. But
you.
hope you guys enjoyed this podcast and tune in next time.
Yes. Love and light them. If not, we had a great conversation.
I love you guys so much.
Yo, I lost my
Oh
English.
my goodness.
I
Oh,
just lost
please.
it.
Every day I lose my English.